Hello, everyone, and welcome to Voice Like a Lion podcast. I'm your host, Steven Pemberton, and today I have with us Greg Fischer. He is a Marine veteran, so thank you so much for your service. Both of my parents were in the military. He's the author of Unleash Your Inner Power and the co-founder and CEO of Burn Pit BBQ, a company that crafts premium barbecue rubs and sauces. Greg, welcome to the show.
Hey, Stephen, thank you so much. And thank you to your parents for their service.
Hey, thank you. It's really fascinating being a military brat is what they would call them, but being a military brat, that's in at the time I didn't think it was very beneficial to me because growing
Sure.
up my parents were very strict. But what I've realized is like that's made me who I am to a certain degree. I mean, I'm just understanding what discipline is pretty wild. I thought everyone grew up this way, so I started meeting people who were very undisciplined. It's like, wait, you can just do this? Like you can just leave your house messy? I didn't know that. Like, wait, like I mean, having long hair is something that I've adopted over the past couple of years because I was always buzz cut for the majority of my life. So I always have grown up loving military history. That's my favorite subject. So with being able to talk to you, you have blended two things I love, which is actually three things: one, our country; two, military history; and then three, e-commerce; and four, barbecue, because I love barbecue. That's something I said even when we first talked, was like I just love me some good barbecue.
Yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong with, good barbecue at any time. So, yeah, I'm happy to talk more about how we got there. But yeah, just excited to hear to chat more with you.
Yeah, so with barbecue, why barbecue? Why'd you decide, outside of sitting there eating a rack of ribs, you said, you know what? I think I could do this better and I'm gonna start selling my stuff.
Yeah, that's a great question. My journey starts, obviously, I was in the military, spent 4 years in the Marine Corps. And, when I came back home, I did like what I thought I was supposed to do, which is, go to school, then get like this steady job. So I went
Mm-hmm.
from unstable, really risky Marine Corps combat to like the insurance and finance industry, which is like the exact opposite of that. So I did that for about a decade, but at the same time, I was grilling and barbecuing in the backyard with my buddy, and eventually over time we just got kept trying and getting better and better and better, and then eventually we just were like, hey, let's try and do this thing full time. So we were doing rubs and sauces and seasonings, and then really just started off as a blog and providing recipes and tips to people that followed us, and then shortly after we developed some products that we could launch, and that's where we're at today.
That's really cool. I think that it's really fascinating. I would love to know. There's one thing that you said that I found really interesting because I've plenty of people, they have a passion, there's something they're interested in, and then they just quit their main thing and go into not even a side hustle. This thing doesn't even exist. They just quit and jump straight into something. But for you, as you had a decade of being in the finance sector, it's more of you're pretty secure in that. That's even what I noticed with my parents. They went from military to the post office, and they were in the post office, both of them, for over 30 years. So I just was like, okay, so I have to be very secure with making that decision. Was there any kind of hesitancy to say, you know what, I'm just going to let go of my security and jump full headlong into this business thing?
Yeah, obviously there's quite a bit like at that time. So we're coming up on 5 years now. And I was the main breadwinner. So my income provided for our family for the most part. All the benefits were through me. I had three young boys, all under the age of 10 years old. So there was a lot riding on, my steady income. However, I got to the point where that wasn't enough anymore for me. I think one of the biggest things that a lot of people who join the military, they have is like this sense to serve, this higher purpose, and that's what I was lacking when I went into the corporate world and was working in that industry. That I lost that, and that I got to a point where it was kind of dark for me. And I had a long conversation with my wife, and this wasn't just a decision for me alone,
Mm-hmm.
because it was going to be it was going to have a big impact on my family. So, 2020 hit, COVID hit, and I was working from home, and I was like, what am I doing? Just sitting behind a computer. And I was like, why don't I try something for myself? I had a nest egg kind of saved up. They say, save for emergencies. Well, this was a personal emergency for me, where I needed to go off and I needed to try something different, for my own sanity. So that's where I was at. And that's what made me kind of I did have a little bit of, a nest egg saved up, but when I quit my job, my income was gone the
Yeah.
same week, that same day. So, I put in my 3 weeks, and then, shortly after I launched this business with my buddy, and we had no income coming in. We didn't know how we were going to make money. I just knew I had to get out of that environment. And this was something I wanted to try. So that's where I went. And that's kind of what helped get me started. Was it was almost coming from a personal point of pain,
Hmm.
where I had to do something different. Otherwise it was going to be pretty bad for me.
See, I resonate with that really deeply because I quit my corporate job in June of 2020 and went fully into business and used my nest egg. That was my 401k. I pulled that thing early and I deferred the taxes. and,
Sure.
and that's how I did it. And I was in the same spot. In May of 2020, I was started having really bad anxiety attacks and I couldn't understand why. I was one of the fastest movers in a Fortune 100 company. I was up for what looked like $100,000 raise, but I realized in that moment, looking back now, it's like I realized I felt stuck and I didn't think I was ever going to get out of that spot. And I knew because I'd already been kind of dabbling around in other business models in the past that there was more for me than this. It's like there's more to this life than being behind this desk all day. And so yeah, I did the same thing. I quit the job and it's like, okay, we have no income. What are we going to do? And it's definitely, especially when you have a family, because for me, I have a wife, I have a son, there's three people in that decision. It is not just you. And I really just want to just say I admire your courage to be able to do that. Most people don't quite understand what that means. Especially for me, I was the only breadwinner at that time. When you are taking not only your security, but what most people would say is your family security and saying, you know what, I understand that I am the main breadwinner. It's like, but there's more of me that you haven't experienced yet. There's more that I want to bring to this world. So I just want to thank you for being bold and courageous, stepping out and doing the thing because we need more people like that. I think that there's people that I know that because they have a family, they have shelved their dreams. And because they shelved their dreams, there's things that were supposed to come into the earth that just never came. There's ideas, dreams, visions they have that never came to be because they said, well, I have to be safe. I have to play it safe, which in this day and age, there is no safe. You can be in a cushy job and that job could be gone tomorrow. I mean, we've seen that this year with everything that's shifted with our new people in government. So I just want to say thank you for doing that. And I'm sure there's many of people, probably thousands of people now saying thank you, especially with your premium barbecue rubs and sauces. I actually think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but are you guys in retail stores now or are you guys only selling online?
Well, we do dabble in retail here locally. We do a lot of stuff, throughout the Midwest, primarily in our home state of Wisconsin, which, isn't known for barbecue just yet. So we're hoping to change that. But yeah, we do a lot online. We have some products out there on Amazon as well. But yeah, we do have a pretty good local presence here in Wisconsin. Some retail locations throughout the entire U.S. But that's part of our next evolution of our business and where we want to go and where we see is kind of, getting more involved with that side of the business.
So I know you said something earlier. You were talking about the blog posts. When you were doing the blog posts for barbecue, you and your buddy, when you were doing these things and you're helping people be able to understand how to barbecue or how to make their own rubs or whatever it was you guys were doing, was there people in there was like, hey, this is great and I love this information. Can you just make one and I'll just buy it? Like, what inspired you to start making your own products?
Well, it was, I think a combination. One, we did, we always put kind of, we're transparent. So we put all of our recipes out there, even with some barbecue and rubs and sauces, like how to make your own. So, there's not a lot of innovation in the barbecue rub and sauce space, so to speak. But what we did see was that like the most popular brands at the local stores, and everybody knows who they are. I won't mention them here, but when you turn the bottle over and you look at the label, it's just this laundry list of like a science experiment, right? So you don't know exactly what these ingredients are. Half of them you can't pronounce. So we sought out to provide something that was cleaner, not only for the people that follow us, but for our own families. So it kind of started off that way. And that just slowly developed after that. So, we're all natural, we're gluten free, and, we try and keep the ingredients that go into our products very simple. and we don't try and confuse people. We don't put any artificial stuff in there. So it was really started off with like a necessity for our own families, and then we wanted to launch that and provide that to other people so that they would have a healthier choice when they decided what they wanted to put on the food that they were cooking.
Yeah, I really like that. I think that's something for me and my family that we've adopted. I don't know. There's a rumor going around right now that like all the artificial food dyes are getting banned, and it's not confirmed yet. But I do think it's interesting. I mean, especially with having our son, is he has some pretty interesting reactions to artificial food dyes.
Okay.
So when I think about flipping something over and looking at the ingredients list, being able to understand what's in it, and like you said, there's a lot of them where you flip it over and it literally feels like you have to have a PhD in chemistry to figure out what you're putting on your food. I love that you guys has made it simple. So in your first year of business, so now you have the blog, you guys are releasing products. What were some of the big learnings you got from that first year of launching your products?
Honestly, the first big learning we had was that, like, hey, we could actually do this. Because when you launch into something new, the unexpected, again, like, we didn't have a culinary background. We were just two guys in Wisconsin that were trying to figure this out as we go. So we went to like a local farmer's like craft fair type of thing, and we brought some product with us. And we sold like a couple $100 worth of stuff in a few hours, and we're like, wow, man, like, this could actually work. I think that was the biggest thing, was just coming out of the gate, with products and having actually, like, outside of, your friends and family that know you well and are just going to tell you, hey, this is great stuff. Like, people you don't know make buy in your stuff. That helps to create a little bit of confidence that you can actually do this thing. But then also at the same time, it's very difficult to keep the momentum going, especially in the consumer product space, because for us, we have a food product. So a lot of people, before they buy something new, they usually like to try it, or they like to smell it or taste it. So we knew we had a large barrier to overcome by getting people just to try our product. So we did a lot of boots on the ground type of work here locally to do that. So, those are a few learnings that we had right away. One, confidence in ourselves that, hey, we can actually do this because people are buying our product. But then two, big challenges that, okay, now we have to get this in front of more people, and how do we do that?
That's something that I've noticed even for myself, and then especially for a lot of people in my business network. I have some people that I've been able to meet. I've been blessed to meet them, and they're billionaires. But it's the same thing. Is in the beginning, there's just that moment. It's like, wait, this is possible. I think that's one thing that I wish more people would have that epiphany. It's like, oh, this is actually possible. And most people, because I think so many people have dreams. But once somebody gives you money for that dream, you go, oh, wait. And it's not your mom, dad, best friend, your wife, your husband. You go, oh, wait, there's actually random stranger just gave me their money to buy this thing. This thing might actually do something. I think that's really cool, those moments. But also, there was something that you said. You were mentioning that, people want to smell it. They want to taste it, because I'm that way. I love different rubs. I love different sauces. I love different seasonings. But there's times that I get them. It's like, man, I wish I would have tried this first, because it is not that good. And then you have this giant bottle, and it just sits there in the back of your cabinet watching you every time you open the seasoning cabinet. Mm-hmm. So how did you guys overcome that? Because to me, I'm thinking about that from my perspective, looking at your brand. It's like, okay, that makes sense in a farmer's market, right? You can have little pouches, or they can smell it, or you can have roasted some ribs and give them like a little piece, or some chicken wings. It's like, but how do you do that online?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. If I had that perfect answer, I'd probably be somewhere else, with a lot more money. And that's something we're still trying to figure out, right? There's obviously you can pay to promote your product, but again, consumers are usually pretty risk averse. They like to go after what they already know and have tried. So a new product coming out, they're probably not going to try it. So some things we've done is we've partnered with other local businesses to put coupons in their orders. So if somebody buys their product, they'll get a coupon for a sample pack from us. So that's one way we can tap into a similar market that's not necessarily just in the barbecue space, but in a similar, like, guys grilling type of space. So we've done that. Online as well, we do a lot of videos. We have a podcast, which we share recipes and tips, and we talk about our products and things like that. And then, social media is huge for us. So we we like to post all that stuff out there on our Facebook or Instagram. And then also our YouTube, we've been doing more YouTube videos of, utilizing our products and showing people how versatile it is and how easy it is to use and how to make good, clean food for their families and loved ones. So, we're trying to still, crack that nut because it is difficult, especially with some larger players that have like more dollars to spend. So we have to be strategic and we have to be smart in how we spend our money and how we do those things. And honestly, it's a lot of organic boots on the ground, us turning our cameras on, talking to our consumers and potential consumers. So it's a lot of work.
Yeah, that was my initial thought because I was thinking about it when you mentioned that and you brought it up. Because I have a buddy, he owns a pretty big SaaS agency that works with e-commerce brands, and it's called UGC Factory. And when I'm thinking about it, it's like for you guys, it's like, do you have videos of someone where you just hand them a little container and then you catching their actual real reaction to them smell? It's like, oh, this smells good. What's in this? And then you can say, well, it's only these ingredients. Like, oh, that's crazy. Or somebody trying a rib for the first time or trying a chicken wing for the first time. It's like, oh, this is actually really good. Because then you're catching people's raw, real reactions. And that's something different even than like the influencer space. Because I'm sure you've seen that where you'll pay an influencer and then they unbox a thing and then they're sitting there and just like, and then here it is. And it's like, yeah, but that's not real. You can tell that that's fabricated. But if you are at a farmer's market and somebody is doing that, that's obviously not fabricated. There's all these people walking around. It's somebody walking up and smelling the thing. They're tasting a thing. It's them doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we found that as well. We don't pay for, influencers or anything like that because we've seen it. We see it and we read about it all the time. I mean, we're in the barbecue space, but we're also in the consumer psychology space as well. So, I mean, we're trying to understand, what consumer behavior is and what gets people to buy. And we just know like organic, real reactions, authentic reactions are people can tell. People aren't dumb. They know when somebody's being paid for their reaction or their review versus somebody that's just doing it because they really like the product. So, if you're listening out there and, you enjoy a product that you got recently, like customer reviews are huge. So go, your friend's business, go leave them reviews because, those are help build trust with consumers that might be looking at that product. So great points there. Like, and we just try and do as much as we can promoting organic reviews and customer reactions all across our socials and even on our websites.
That's really good. I think that that's something that's really strong, especially for what they would consider a CPG brand. So CPG brand is like you say, consumer product goods. So those are things that drinks, any kind of food items, seasonings, sauces, those kind of things is how do you, because even in Walmart, right? I've seen brands where they go, okay, I'm going to expand, right? I'm going to be in Costco and now I'm in Sam's and I'm in Walmart. It's like, that's amazing. But if I don't know your brand, that doesn't mean I'm going to buy it. So it's like you're in all these places and depending on those retailers, you're going to have a certain MOQ you have to meet. So there's like a certain amount of product you're going to have in store, which if you are used to being a smaller operation, I just had a conversation, this is a real one. I had a real conversation with a guy where his company got acquired and it was a furniture company. They were a home decor company, got acquired by a big furniture company, Bassett Furniture. And Bassett Furniture said, hey, now that we're going to put you in everything. We're going to put you in all of our stores. We're going to put you in all of our major retailers. So they go and buy $1 million worth of inventory. And then Bassett Furniture says, hey, you know what? Never mind. And it's like, so now they're stuck with $1 million worth of inventory. And that tanked them. Over the next 6 months, they ended up going out of business. So that's one of those things where expanding into retail seems great. So with you guys, what has your experience been? Because it sounds like you've started to go into retail, but what has that experience been like for you?
Yeah, so we've really done the opposite. We wanted to dominate our home state. Our backyard. We want to dominate our backyard. So when you think about Wisconsin barbecue, you think about Burn Pit BBQ. That's where we started. And I really took that from kind of my military days is when we were in Iraq and doing combat missions. It's like we wanted to own that space, that area of operation. Like everybody needed to know who we were. So we're still doing that here. But we have dabbled with larger retailers a little bit. And we've experienced a lot what your experiences you just talked about was, consumers need to know who you are, need to know your product. So, we're not going to be launching large scale, rollouts of any national retailers just yet because we are continuing to learn and grow. We've learned a lot by seeing our stuff on the shelf because, we're going to be doing some redesign of labels and things like that that make our product stand out a little bit that, we wouldn't have seen that if we didn't take a risk and go into some of these local retailers at a smaller scale. But, we're building up and, people like to think about like, hey, are you in the Costco? Are you in Walmart? Like, yes and no. We've been, we've had conversations with those. We're not near where we need to be ready to scale at that point. Because again, we don't have angel investors. We don't have any, private equity funds coming with us. It's me and my buddy bootstrapping it. So we don't have the funds to be able to go buy $1 million worth of inventory and sit on it. We kind of have to piece it together as we go. But no, we're definitely learning a lot, by working with some smaller retailers. So when we do get to that point, if we want to, we can scale sustainably. So we don't have, an example of what you just shared of, within 6 months going out of business, because I do think a lot of businesses do not understand the full scale of what it means to roll out to a lot of retailers at the same time. Not only are you looking at inventory, you're looking at how you're going to market your product in those spaces to get the consumer awareness, additional risks. So, increases to your insurance and things like that, getting people into the markets to taste it, like do tastings. So, there's just so much that goes into it, which we're learning as we go, which we wouldn't have known if we would have, tried to do it year one. So, we continue to learn and grow in that space, but we want to make sure we're prepared and we understand the risks that are associated with going into, a national or even a larger regional retailer.
So with that thought process, because I heard you say that you guys are bootstrapped, which I love. Both of our e-commerce brands that we had that went over 7 figures, both of them were bootstrapped. With you guys, what is the thought process basically? Did you get that from being military where it's like, okay, we're gonna secure home base first. Like we're gonna dominate here first, and then we're going to take ground slowly but surely to make sure we don't lose ground. Because I've seen that, and I'm sure you understand that way better than I do. But you can go into an area, you can secure one spot, and then you try to say, well, the enemy's way over there. We're just going to go way over there. And now all of a sudden, now they've cut you off. So you can't retreat and you can't move forward. You're just stuck. So is that kind of the mindset when you're thinking about it with staying bootstrap? Or is there a plan down the road to take on private equity, to take on angel investors? What does that look like?
As of right now, we don't have any plans to take on any additional investment from outside. We've been pretty fortunate that we've been able to scale with the revenues that we have coming in slowly and sustainable. This is a long-term play for us. Like we're not one of those. We didn't start this company to turn it around in 5 years and then try and sell. Because obviously, I think in our space, the barbecue sauce and rub space, there's really not that much of that goes on unless you're at the large, high scale or large companies. I'm not saying we can't get there, but like that's not on our radar right now. So I think we want to be strategic about it. We have said no to a lot of opportunities that have come our way because it's really outside of what we're trying to do. So that's one thing is, when you're a new business, everything's coming your way. Everybody wants a piece of you. You got to be able to say no to some things if it doesn't align to what your vision for the company or your brand is. So that's something that we've had to do along the way. We've taken some swings that we've missed on quite a few things, but for the most part, I think saying no to things has allowed us to stay in the game this long.
So how do you know? Because that's a great point of being able to. You say no more than you say yes, right? So with being able to say no, what was it for you? Like, how did you anchor yourself to the bigger vision? So that way, if there was ever a moment where it's like, it's kind of shaky, we could take on this person or we could expand over here and hopefully make more money. How did you say no in those moments when it made real sense for you to say yes?
Well, we had to look at our capacity. Again, we're a small company, a small business. So we had to look at our resources. What do we have available? Do we want to put that much, into this project, time-wise, finance-wise? And then also, to be honest, just having conversations with, distributors and things like that, like honest conversations like, hey, this is where we're at. What do you see? What are some things that would hold us back in this space? And, to be honest, like the conversations that we've had with distributors have been really good, open and honest, where they even told us at some points like, hey, we don't think you guys are ready yet. If you guys were to do this, you guys would, you'd probably just bleed money. So, honestly, it starts with us being honest and open with the people that we're talking or potentially going into business with, because sometimes like you'll come together at the same point and same conclusion, be like, hey, this probably isn't the best opportunity for us just yet. So, those things, having parameters set, like, hey, this is our vision, this for our company, and then also having open, honest conversations with not only ourselves but potential partners to make sure everybody's aligned and we don't make like a mistake that could cost us the business or cost us quite a bit and set us back.
That's awesome. I think I love that mindset. I love that you guys are thinking that way, because being able to anchor yourself to a bigger vision, being able to be open and honest about, hey, this is who we are and this is where we're at and this is what we want to do. There's a really good podcast I listened to a couple of weeks ago with the founder of ButcherBox, and he talked about that, where for him, as he said, we have investors. It's like, but we buy them out over time. He's like, because we're never going to sell. He said, and we're never going to go public. He's like, we're just going to keep growing. And they're doing almost $600 million a year. So that's pretty good. But he talked about that too, was he was just saying, it's like, we have amazing partners. He's like, but we've had to learn how to say no. So being able to anchor yourself for him is he has a very long-term vision, because he wants to be basically a legacy brand where he never sells, he passes it on, and it never goes public. It's like the meat industry. The meat industry, most of those people are not public. Most of them, they're just like, they used to be farmers 100 years ago, but now they're a giant business. But yeah, so now with us coming towards the end, how do people, if they want to either follow you, firstly, it's like, how do they follow along on your journey? But also, it's like, how do they get to taste and grab onto some of these sweet barbecue sauces and rubs?
Yeah. So if you want to follow my personal journey, I am pretty open and transparent on LinkedIn. You can just search for Greg Fischer, Burn Pit BBQ. I'm out there. I post just about every day, multiple times, just kind of what I'm going through as a small business owner in my journey, personally, and then as well with the business. But then if you're interested in the brand, it's just burnpitbbq.com. You can go out there and you can see our products. And then Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Burn Pit BBQ. And we're out there, we're doing stuff. So we also have a podcast that me and my buddy, we talk about all things grilling, which is called Grilling to Get Away. And that can be found on a platform that you get podcasts from. So that's how you can find us if you're interested.
Awesome. So one last question before I let you go. What is one question that you wish I would have asked you today?
One question. That's a good question. Let's see. One question I think I get a lot is like, what advice would you give to somebody that maybe be in that position where they're not happy with their job, what they're doing, and they have this idea or this side business that's really taking off, and they just aren't taking that leap? I think it is like, one is write down, your worst case scenario. What would happen if I left my job? Like, what are all the terrible things that would happen? And then on the other side, write down all the things that you would do to counter that if that were to happen. So example, I would run out of money. Opposite, I would sell everything I have on Facebook Marketplace. Like, how to make money, right? Or I lose my insurance. I go to the marketplace and I find insurance. Like, just do that. It helps alleviate a lot of the anxiety. And you can see that, man, if I really did, I could do all of these things and still try and make this thing work. And then at the end, worst case scenario, I could always go back to that job or find a similar job or career at another company. So that's kind of what I did. It helped alleviate a lot of the anxiety and see like, hey, this thing really is possible if I want to take a shot on myself. That's what I would say if you would have asked me that question.
I love it. That's an amazing answer, because I just want to chime in on that, because I did also quit a corporate job. I love that. I wish I would have talked to you back then, because that's something I wish I would have done, because there's it's almost like an ethereal smoke monster that you see, but until you actually like shine the light on it and you can list it out, it's like, okay, what are you actually afraid of? Well, I'm afraid that the business is going to fail and I'm going to run out of money. It's like, okay, so then you just go get another job. It's like, oh, okay. I'm afraid that, I'm going to look like an idiot in front of all my friends and family. It's like, for me, it's like, you live over 1,000 miles away. I'm pretty sure they don't care. It's like, oh, so just being able to get it tangibly. I mean, it's a tangible, and I really love how you did that. So Greg, I just want to thank you for sharing. I really love that. Like, if you guys made it this far, write that down, because yes, even if you're not in a corporate job, you're saying, Steven, I'm in a business. I promise you, if you don't have any insecurities, you have no anxieties, there's nothing you're worried about, you are not thinking big enough. So if doing that same thing is like, okay, I'm afraid of expanding into retail because if I do, then I'm gonna get stuck with $1 million worth of inventory. It's like, okay, but what's the other side of that? Is like there's another side to it, and it's also just asking the questions like, is that true? And is it possible that answer is not true? It's like, oh yeah, it is kind of possible. So, Greg, thank you so much for you being here, for your amazing knowledge that you gave to us here today. If it helped no one else, it helped me. So just thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, well, I appreciate the conversation, Steven, and yeah, I got a lot out of this as well. So I just appreciate the new connection and love what you're doing there.
Thank you so much. And for everyone else listening, we'll see you in the next episode.